12:24 on the BBC Asian Network to bring you this now between now and 12:45. How many times do you hear your parents tell you to speak your own lingo? One woman is actually making the Punjabi language more accessible to the younger generation. Kiran Law has already produced a number of books and has set up a tuition hub called Funjabi Tuition, teaching children, and she's also got some of the lessons across YouTube. So I want you to check out one of the songs. It's called the Rang Song, which teaches people about colours in Punjabi. Have a listen to this.
Hello everyone, let's sing the Rang Song. Be sure to be listening carefully because you'll be joining in too.
Yeah, audience, it's over to you because I'm definitely not singing on the radio. I wouldn't do that to you, your poor ears. Well, joining me now, I've got actually somebody who can actually, this is the person. Yeah, stop giggling. This is the person who I am actually going to ask to do some singing for me. That's author and Punjabi language tutor we just heard there, Kiran Law, who just released her latest book called The Pullpots, Visit Bhangraland, based on Indian musical instrument. Thanks for coming on, Kiran.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. But I was hoping you were going to sing along then.
Must be having a laugh. How could I possibly do that to our poor listeners? I mean, honestly.
Oh, but I'm sure you were tapping along though, were you?
I was loving it. I was actually just thinking, actually, if I'm sitting there at home and you know when you listen to something over and over again, it just becomes like an earworm. That's definitely that's definitely an earworm.
Yeah. No, fantastic. Well, it's good to speak to you today, Uncle.
Yeah, good to speak to you too. I mean, just tell us a little bit about this new book in particular.
Yeah, so my new book is called The Pullpots, Visit Bhangraland. It's an idea that I had many, many years ago, but my other books took priority over the years. And then it wasn't until I started touring with the Rang Song in schools, because obviously the video in the Rang Song, the children, the Pullpot family are going on a road trip, that children would always say to me when I did the workshops, they would say, "Oh, where are the Pullpots going?" And in my heart of hearts, I knew that there was only one place that they could go to, and that is indeed Bhangraland.
Bhangraland, I love that. I mean, if that was actually a real place, I mean, it would just.
I'm hoping it will be a real place one day.
Absolutely. I mean, then you can just charge Disney prices to everyone, and just imagine, you'd be absolutely smashing it. I mean, where did the idea come from initially?
Well, growing up, Bhangra was a big part of my life. To be honest, the language came second.
Right.
Bhangra came first. Yeah, it was the whole love that I have for Bhangra, the uplifting beats, the sheer joy it gives me, that I was like, you know what, I actually need to write a story. And then I was thinking, but what angle can I take? And then I was like, okay, let me sit down. Let me pretend I'm 5-year-old Kiran again. What was it that really used to excite me? And it wasn't the lyrics, Uncle, because that's something we appreciate, I think, later on in life.
Yeah.
Obviously, the hook lines we all love as a child. For me, it was Malkeet Singh's, you know, Toota Toota.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you, which were your favourite tracks from back in the day?
I think it's got to be, Toota Toota and Apna Sangeet.
Classics,
by Apna Sangeet, yeah. But the other thing is that I wanted to do a story that really highlights the amazing instruments behind the sounds. That's the big thing for me, for children to be able to say, well, I'm a big Beatles fan, Uncle.
Oh, yeah.
So every time I hear "Here Comes the Sun," you know that song?
Yeah.
I'm hoping you know that song, yeah.
I do, yeah.
And you hear the intro and you go, you know what? That's a guitar intro.
It's like a sitar type vibe, isn't it? I know it's a guitar, but you could. I've heard it played by a sitar, and it sounds amazing. Just that starting intro, yeah.
No, but for me, the big Bhangra song, the one song that everybody knows is, of course, Mundiyan to Bach Ke Rahi by Punjabi MC.
Yeah.
But what I was finding was when I was saying to children, oh, what's that instrument, that intro at the start? They couldn't tell me. They couldn't say it's a tumbi. And for me, it was a case of I need to do a story, Kiran, that really will educate children and introduce them to these amazing instruments. And then so when they hear it next, they'll go, oh yeah, that's the Dumbi intro. We need to learn that.
Do you find young children are interested in learning things like the sitar or the harmonium or the tabla?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I learnt the harmonium as a child.
Yeah.
My children learn the tabla. And I think they do, especially the dhol. Lots of schools I'm hearing, they do dhol lessons in schools. But it was the other instruments as well, like you have the chimta. Don't know if you know the chimta.
I don't know.
No, it's like these big silver metal tongs, and they have cymbals at the side, and when you bang them together, So again, introducing all of those through the story was a real big thing for me.
Yeah.
So that's the whole behind it, is to, I don't know if you've read the story, Ankur, but it's a case of at the theme park, it's about bringing these instruments to life. The same energy that they give to us, I wanted to bring that alive through the rides that they are now.
And also you've created this hub, haven't you, called Funjabi Tuition as well. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I've been teaching children and adults now for about 5 years.
Wow.
And it was... Well, the books actually came first. I wrote my first Punjabi book. This was 11 years ago. Mm-hmm. And the Pullpots Visit Bhangraland is actually my 9th one. So in between, yes, the hub was launched, and I teach children. Before COVID, it was in person, but now everything is all online. And I teach children all around the world, California, Texas, you name it.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and they're all singing to the rung song. That's the big one.
I love that. And that's the thing, isn't it? If you can just start influencing people at that young age and they really get into it, it makes such a difference, actually. So it gives them such a well-rounded experience.
100%, without a doubt. If you make the language cool, then they're going to want to join in, without a doubt.
So hang on, when you started obviously getting into your language and your culture, like you said, it came through via song. What about, I suppose, nowadays as well? We just played AP Dillon, for example, right? A really popular Punjabi artist.
To that.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
And I just think that you have artists like that who can really influence. You'll have a Bali Sagoo from a number of years ago as well.
Yes.
But how important is it maybe to make it accessible in this form, in what you're doing? Because at times that sort of music will come to somebody maybe a little bit later.
Yes, completely. And again, going back to the lyrics, when you listen to that song, all of that, you really appreciate what they're saying. But the children are not going to really understand what's going on in that song. Whereas I try to simplify all the work that I do. I try to simplify it down. And the other big thing is making it family friendly. This is the real big thing, because again, some of the lyrics aren't always suitable, and you don't necessarily want your children to sing along. And that's with all music, though, isn't it? Even in the mainstream, you sit there going, okay, we don't want to do that. But it's a case of producing material that the whole family can join in with. And that's what I've done with the Rung song and all the other songs that I've written. So,
how did you create the Rung song? Was it via your own family?
So most of my excitement happens at the sink. So I was washing the old dishes and going, you know what, I need to have a learning tool that will help children to remember their colours. Yeah. So I created it at home, and then I took it to the classroom. But it was actually the parents who were like, Kiran, we need to sing along to this. We need this material as well. And then I was like, well, if it's going around in their heads, it's going around in mine. I need to get it out there. And now, it's sung by so many people around the world. It really is phenomenal. And
who do you use to test everything? I guess your little ones.
I'm very lucky, as in I have students. So straight away, anything I have, I test it with the students. And if they remember it the week after, well, I'm like, well, that's a hit.
That's perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
But what about adults? Surely you must try it on some adults as well.
With adults, I'm actually, very, very fortunate with all the adult students that I have, that they happily join in with the songs. And, they do. They join in, and I try to make everything as memorable as possible to the person who's learning. So if somebody's into Lego, I have a Lego song as well. If somebody's into, martial arts or whatever, I try to incorporate the language learning into their interests. And it gets them hooked. And you know what? It gets results as well, which is the big thing.
That must be tough. How are you creating songs for so many random different things? Because somebody's interest could be so varied. That's unreal.
It's not necessarily songs all the time, but it's a case of, it's just down to the lesson planning and how I incorporate that. It's not necessarily always a song, but I do try to, a lot of role play. There you go. That's what it is. Sorry. Yeah. A lot of role play I try to recreate.
How many children do you have?
Me personally, I've got 2.
So are they your harshest critics?
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. But I think the beauty of it all is because they use the material and they've learnt it from scratch. And to see them to be able to read and write Punjabi fluently, to be able to just write it without my help is just a phenomenal thing and such an inspiring thing to see. And then it's the same with my students as well. All these people come to me raw, Ankur, and then they, when you see them talking and then you get the response of, they had a conversation with their grandparents the other day, or they were singing a song at school. Because, again, going back to Aparna Sangeet, we love the song Aparna Sangeet at Funjabi Tuition.
Yeah.
So, the children, when the children are taking it and travelling with it, that's a really inspiring thing. For myself.
It's a wonderful link to people's heritage as well. I'm seeing a lot of British Asians growing up now, let's say teenagers, who haven't had that instilled from a young age, and they don't speak the language, they don't understand the language, right? And therefore the link to their grandparents is not as strong as a bond maybe that we may have experienced, for example.
Yes, I completely agree.
And I'm finding a real disconnect, within generations of families, and it's just like, so that's a real shame. It's such a shame.
Well, again, the Pullpots, the characters of the Pullpots, the characters in the book, are 3 grandchildren, Happy, Sunny and Honey, and then you've got Babbaji and Bibbiji. So the stories are all based around adventures with the grandparents. So most of my material, I try to build a bridge between the grandchildren and the other generations, which for me is very important, and I hope I get it across in the material that I'm producing.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, well, if you don't have that affinity or understanding with the grandparents, then you're not going to understand the language. You're not going to really understand your heritage, so to speak, as well. You don't necessarily have to be a fluent speaker, but at least it gives you some sort of a connection.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I completely agree. You don't have to be a fluent speaker. And that's where my first book, Have Fun with Punjabi, is a book of keywords. It's simply a book of keywords that teaches children one word in English and one word in Punjabi. And that was born out of my grandmother and my cousins. They couldn't have a conversation with each other. But it was simple words. I thought, could you not even, understand the simple words? And they were like, no, we've not been taught. Then I was like, okay, what about books out there or the material? There was nothing out there. And that's what I couldn't get my head around, as to why there's so many limited resources for the Punjabi language. I was really, really proud moment, Uncle. My books were in foils in London,
Brilliant.
The big bookstore.
Yeah.
But the Punjabi section was tiny.
Yeah.
Absolutely tiny. And that was a little bit heartbreaking. But at the same time, I was like, well, we're still there. We're still there.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And that's interesting, isn't it? Because you hope that maybe your books will just fill that section up then. It gives you more space for you to maximise and take advantage of it. I wanted to ask you as well, conversations you'll have with children, you'll start off with basics. You'll start off with basic phonetics, basic subjects. What about then moving the subjects onto areas which might be, I suppose more challenging for children to address? So, the first hour... I was going to say the first hour of our programme was all about, racism that footballers are dealing with as well. And, we all come from a South Asian background. We've probably all dealt with it in one way or another as well. So what about tackling issues like that potentially?
So deeper conversations, yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it starts off with the basics. You need to know your basics. And then it gets a bit more advanced. But third and foremost, I always try to... it's all down to the child's interests. If they tell me they're into boxing, then that's my aim, is to make sure that they can hold and deliver a conversation, a debate even, about why they do what they do and why they love what they do. Because there's no point me teaching them something about, I don't know, aeroplanes or something, a completely different subject that they're not actually going to be able to use in the wider world.
Yeah, massively true as well. And that's the thing, tackling difficult issues, which sometimes, we might try and veer away from as well. So, yeah, that's interesting. So just to break down before you go, some of these online classes, but if people want to get involved, how can they, and where can they find them? And how do you break them down in terms of how many groups or how long each session is as well?
My website, funjabituition.com. And I teach one-to-one only. I feel I get the best results that way.
Oh, really? Okay.
But reading, writing, speaking, all of those. And I think the other big thing is that once you're a very strong reader, just like with English, once you're a strong reader, you build your vocabulary so much more. So if you can read and write Punjabi, and then it's actually amazing to see how much more of a confident and fluent speaker you'll become.
Can you see yourself doing anything else? This is
What would you like me to do?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I'd like to do more songs, definitely.
Yeah.
I've got more songs. I've written a few plays. We wrote a few plays, and my main passion is writing, and then now the teaching is really it's another joy of mine. So yes, but songs are the big one for me because I've really seen the magic of and more books as well. And more books.
I bet you sing doing practically anything. Is there anything you don't sing to?
I literally, everybody calls me the Funjabi Tuition musical. I sing pretty much 90% of the day. That's why when I heard Munde Pagal Ne Sare, I was like, this is just too good.
If you could have anybody guest as one of your singers alongside you for any of your songs, who would be your dream lineup? Yeah, what a question. There you go. We'll finish off on something to test you.
How many can I pick?
As many as you would like. I want like an order, a top 5.
They've got to be living, or can I?
Anything, anyone.
Anything. Okay, it's got to be Surinder Kaur, phenomenal singer.
Yeah.
We've got to have good old Diljit in there. Lovely Diljit. Got to have A.S. Kang. Yeah. And Aparna Sangeet, Sardara Gill. And then I think we should end it with Sukshinda Shinda. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. I'm just trying to make a list of all these people, and then I'll say to our music team, look, let's get the ones that the artists, God bless them, that are living. Then we can obviously give them a call. But it's just fun, isn't it? Because then you could obviously just influence so many people, and it's just.
To be honest, I'd like to do a duet with you. I'm a bit disappointed you never sung the song, but.
I mean, listen.
Next time.
Listen. We're sadly going to have to go to a track because my producer's saying no, we cannot do that to our audience. Otherwise, I'd happily sing. You know me. I mean, I'm happy to be an exhibitionist just to showcase my voice. But I don't think the audience are ready for that, Kiran. But thank you so much. You've been so much fun, and the Pullpots Visit Bhangraland is out now, right?
Absolutely, it's out now.
Awesome stuff. Take it easy.